Good afternoon, good afternoon again, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, as always, the usual disclaimers. If you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 900 ABA professionals regards to the JRC's so called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused. You know the drill, folks. Please read the article. Share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC actually does ever see through with their threat. All right, folks, trigger warning one. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please make sure to utilize those headphones, all right? Number two, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is very much advised, all right? All right. So, where we left off last video. Indeed, this commenter elsewhere quotes the American Psychiatric Association, APA, the publisher of the DSM, which explicitly compared the DSM 5 to the DSM 4. Compared to the DSM 4, the diagnostic criteria for the DSM 5 draw a clearer line when detailing what constitutes a traumatic event. If you'll remember in the previous video, I spoke to you as to how that could work by using the situation with the adults after during 9/11. That's what they mean by making things clearer, that individuals were impacted and some developed some forms of PTSD simply to being glued to those horrific images and the fear of further attack. All right. That's why they wanted to clear things up. It's the idea of they may not be like physically there when hell is raining down upon me, but I can see it through this camera lens that is aimed at the situation. And I can still be impacted by the fear, the destruction, okay? Without directly being there. That's what they wanted to clear up. But what's fun though is when they tried to use this particular argument, the students that are forced onto that device still meet the criteria of PTSD, not just in the DSM 4, but in the DSM 3 as well. But nobody wants to talk about that, do they? Let's read on, shall we? Sexual assault is specifically included, for example, as a recurring exposure that could apply to police officers or first responders. The APA has explained that the current diagnostic criteria now accommodate trauma stemming from repetition, particular when you're an abused child in a situation like these kids are at the JRC, where it's not just a one-time event, but it's over and over and over again, day after day, year after year, decade after decade for some of them. And the criteria now focus more on the symptoms the individual displays rather than describing the individual's subjective response to a given event. In other words, whether you, the neurotypical, that has demonstratedly proven time and again that you do not understand the response that a not neurodivergent, in particular autistic and ADHD folks, give to the same event that you are witnessing is not a good measure, because one of the very things in regards to our diagnosis is the fact that we don't communicate in a way that neurotypicals can pick up on and understand. Okay? So, what might seem to you as though it's just kind of a slight effect, the reality is absolutely fundamentally different. Okay? You can't base how severe someone with PTSD may be at that moment in time based on what your neurotypical understanding of response to traumatic events. Because our brains are not wired like yours, our reactions are not going to look the same as yours, even if we're both reacting to the same event. Okay? That's the point. Thus, even an individual who witnesses another receive ESD shock is a potentially a risk for developing acute stress disorder or PTSD from experience, particularly if the witness has been sensitized by the experience of having received the ESD shock themselves. You know, I keep referencing the Sword of Damocles. It's one of my favorite references in the world because, quite frankly, it never leaves the very like small half an inch left above my neck. Okay. I use that reference in particular when talking about this is because even if I'm not getting shocked at a moment, having someone right next to me get shocked is automatically going to put me in fear that I'm going to be next. All right. And very obviously, that is going to have fear associated with it, among other things. The threat of violence is just as psychologically damaging as the physical act itself, especially when it's done repeatedly over a long period of time, and you never know when the shocks or the hits are coming. Okay? Let's read on. Thus, even an individual who witnessed, yeah, we went over that, sorry. Indeed, panel members expressed great concern about the impact on staff of using this device. This concern is heightened for individuals subject to ESDs who witness trauma of others. So, what we know about the JRC, one of the biggest things is they have a higher turnout rate when it comes to medical assistance than call centers I've worked for in the past. Like fast food. That's how fast all of that is, okay? The way they bleed employees. One of the reasons is when they come accustomed with how things are really done at the JRC, these people who actually have a fucking conscience and a heart are absolutely traumatized by being forced by this entity to harm another human being that they're supposed to be helping. So what do they do? They quit, don't they? Right? Because being forced by a place like JRC to physically harm the person that you're supposedly helping is going to have some psychological ramifications. Not many people are going to stick around after that, you know what I mean? However, these individuals literally from get-go are signing NDAs. We've already been over what that NDA looks like, so that they literally live under the threat of heavy litigation and lawsuits if they dare open their mouths about their time with the JRC. which is why so many of them haven't come forward. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to have to close out on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. We'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.